Everyone has to come up with the name for their company. And I was brainstorming on it, and the concept and the idea that my last name was Chaney kind of popped into my mind. And then I was like, I honestly, I don't know, right? I don't know what magical light bulb went off somewhere, but somehow it just dawned on me that I'm a supply chain guy. My last name is Chaney. And so it was just like, and the funny thing is, the first time I said it out loud, it sounded weird. It's kind of like the first times for people that hear their own voice and they don't like the sound of their voice, talking. But that's how it sounded the first times I said supply chainy. I was like, oh, it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't make sense. And so as a lot of entrepreneurs would do, you go and you ask your mentors and your friends and your family for their thoughts, right? And everyone said, that's genius. Like, how that's the best name you could possibly come up with, right? But to me, it sounded odd at first. So it took some time to get used to saying it and thinking that this is a real thing, right? And my name is in it, right? As I was going to build, like, for example, a podcast, right? I was trying to come up with creative names to come up with it. And I had Pitch Please and, all these other sort of fun names for it. But everyone that I asked, everyone said, you just need to call it the Supply Chainy Podcast. Like, keep working the brand, keep driving that name because it's a gold mine, right? You got to keep growing that. So I kind of just listened to folks, right? But specifically on the Supply Chain Social Club, of course, I had the opportunity to call it the Supply Chainy Social Club also. But I wanted to make it a little bit less about me and my brand and my company, and I wanted to make it a little bit more open and generic for the industry in general. And I, at some point, you kind of just, I don't want to call everything supply chainy, right? So it's one of those times that I made kind of the executive decision to go with just supply chain, the normal version. What inspired me was during COVID. COVID changed things and it inspired people, and it revealed opportunities and gaps in the marketplace. And what I realized is that everyone was very comfortable getting to know each other and meeting and making connections virtually because we had to during COVID, right? And so there was lots of virtual networking events on Zoom and Teams, all that sort of stuff happening. And then when COVID kind of ended, everyone went back to, I like to say, hugging and kissing and being back in person again, right? And all of these virtual concepts for meeting people kind of got put back on the shelf. And as I've been trying to grow the concept of supply chainy, I've been doing lots and lots of virtual meetings, one-on-ones on Google Meets and that sort of thing. And I realized that was naturally where so many conversations went. Over and over and over and over. It was always, do you want to send your Calendly invite or should I send mine? That's always where the conversation went, right? After a few DMs. So I thought, what if I just hit the fast forward button on this, and I go grab one of those virtual networking platforms, like what was used in COVID times and has kind of fallen away a little bit now, and revive it and bring it back and give it a name and give it a purpose. And because I do travel and I do attend lots of in-person networking events, lots of conferences and seminars and symposiums. And that's really awesome. Like, it's great to meet people in person, shake hands, read body language, look them eye to eye, right? But not everyone has the time to be able to go to those kinds of events so much. Not everyone has the funds to be able to afford to go travel to them. And then sometimes people are just, they don't live anywhere near those kinds of opportunities, or, life just doesn't afford them the opportunity. They've got kids in soccer practice and dance club, and life is just too busy to be able to make that sacrifice for those opportunities. So I wanted to create a digital version, a virtual version of those opportunities so that it was more accessible by everybody. And so that was really kind of the genesis of the idea for Supply Chain Social Club. Sometimes I let people say that and I just let them continue on with the concept, but sometimes I will actually interject that Chaney is not my born name. It's not my actual original last name. My actual last name is Gonzalez when I was born. And so I was kind of legally adopted later on in life and changed the last name. So to be honest, I was not born to be Supply Chaney, right? I was legally adopted through the court system to be Supply Chaney. But you know, it's fun. I think it's a good example of taking what you're given in life, the struggles, the opportunities, and making the best out of them, right? Crafting them to your own vision. That's an awesome question. I love it. The more engaging you can be in your marketing efforts and in your communication efforts, the better. You know, the concept that a picture says 1,000 words, right? So whenever you went from like 140 characters in a Twitter tweet sort of thing, like there's not much that you can express and share in that short amount of time and text. But when you add a picture, okay, now you're like 1,000 words, right, that you're communicating. Now, if you want to 100x the impact of your message, now bring video into it, right? It's a series of pictures, 30 frames per minute or 60 frames per minute. So you can communicate so much more because there's audio, now there's body movement and body language, and you can really drive who you are as a person or as a brand, as a personality, and communicate much more in a short or a long time, format to your audience to just kind of grow people's understanding of what you do and what you stand for. The funny thing here is I started with YouTube videos, and my idea was, in these events, in these professional industry events that I participate in, there's a lot of tours they take tours of warehouses, tours of factories and manufacturing facilities, to allow supply chain professionals to see behind the curtain, see behind the scenes of how things occur. But again, not everyone has the opportunity to go see and participate in those tours, So I was like, my idea was like, I can buy a camera, I can go get access to these things. I'll go and record tours and do like a MTV Cribs / like how it's made type of videos to show people through YouTube, from the comfort of their phone on their couch at home, how logistics kind of works in the background, right? And that, so I had to learn like video editing and video shooting a little bit. And so I had to go study and learn how to do that a little bit. But quickly realized that I wasn't getting a lot of traction. And that around that time, I started following folks like Supply Chain Now and Kevin Lawton and Let's Talk Supply Chain and other like sort of podcast influencers in the industry. And I realized very few of them had YouTube channels that were successful and getting very much engagement. They all had podcasts. So I was like, I always thought I wasn't going to be a podcaster. I always thought I'm going to do video. But what I realized is that podcasting it's not the silver bullet that solves everything. I think it's like one tool in your toolbox, right? As a social media person. But it's much easier to do the editing and the recording for a podcast than it is a live in-person event. So what I think I've seen is like so many people start with podcasts that have no video, right? It's just audio, the original type podcast. And then they turn on cameras and they add the video. And then from there, then they start maybe doing the YouTube videos with editing and transitions and live. And I went backwards. And so I've always kind of had this idea that I'm going to always be a video first type of person, of communicator, because there's just so much story that you can share in video. That's a really good question and a great statistic, I guess, to kick it off with, right? I'm trying to be much more than just a broker. I'm trying to bring lots and lots of value, not only to just the general industry, but to clients as well. And the mission statement that I've set for Supply Chaney is to be a creative, connected, and capable supply chain resource. And I try to leave it like high level, because delivering on that mission looks like a lot of different things, right? But But I think that for marketing and in terms of brokerages, it's kind of how can they differentiate themselves, and then communicate how they're different than the other 14,999 brokerages. From a marketing perspective, if you kind of just go down and you ask ChatGPT or you look on YouTube, like how do you create a brand and how do you run and set a marketing strategy for a company? Probably, well, I don't know exactly, but probably one of the first things is like, what is your mission? What is your goal? What is your vision statement, sort of? And that, I think, creates the foundation. And I think that it takes time to figure out what is different about you, your approach to business, the people on your team, the way you operate, the way you think, and then and you kind of got to meditate on that and let it simmer and sit for a bit to understand how are you different. What's the unique set of tools and characteristics that you bring to the business and to a client that no one else does, and then the marketing execution has to turn on. That you have to deliver on that and communicate that and over and over and over. And I think there's a marketing rule that says someone has to hear about you or see you like 7 times before they make a decision to consider buying from you, right? So it's not just that you need to have a mission and a foundation and a purpose and a why, as you sometimes say, but you need to be able to communicate that over and over and over, but not in a way that you sound like a broken record and you're just hitting repeat on the same post every day or something like that, right? So it's got to be a new way on a very reoccurring basis and a consistent basis of delivering and driving home the fact that that is your mission and that you're delivering on it, and that someone should consider buying from you or setting up you as a brokerage to take care of their transportation opportunities. I think maybe from an outside perspective, maybe looking at what I've been doing for about the past year or so, that I've been actively trying to grow and become something out there, it may look like it's very intentional and planned and he has a business plan written for this or something, right? But in reality, it's very much just like one day at a time. The first step is being able to write down and articulate what your why is or what your mission statement is. And once you have that, and it's very robust and it's very holistic, and it doesn't pigeonhole you into one corner. It needs to be kind of like a big idea, like a goal that you may never achieve, but it's going to always push you to go keep working and improving. Once you can establish that, your purpose for being, then everything else gets so much easier. But one thing that I've found in using those is when you use those in their third-party apps and they're connected to your Instagram account and your YouTube and your LinkedIn, all that sort of stuff, it doesn't tag. It doesn't have the ability to tag people or companies. Over some time, 6-9 months of trying that, I realized that those posts that are generated through a scheduling app or software are not as effective because you can't tag people. So I actually kind of backed off of that and went back to just posting directly on LinkedIn. I've been able to recruit a couple of marketing interns consistently for about the past year or so. And they come on and it's an experience for them. And I'm very bootstrap sort of focused, founders. So they're unpaid internships. But what it does is allow them to have some experience because they are a marketing major to kind of play around and work in a marketing sort of in a business that's a real tangible thing. So it gives them real hands-on opportunities to kind of see what it's like to be a marketing person in a real sort of business setting. And it's a very low expectations for them. And so it helps me to have a consistent marketing product and communication out there without me having to do it all myself. I'm still kind of building out what exactly Supply Chain Social Club is, what it can be. But I want it to be sort of I call it like the virtual country club in the sky, where all of the supply chain sort of gets together virtually. The different series of events that we have today, we have a warehouse one, a transportation one, procurement one, a sales and marketing one. So it has like these regular meetings. I'm looking to maybe add one for founders and business owners to be able to come together and talk about our problems and opportunities and network. In other ways, maybe even use it for private events for companies that are looking to host private events for just their internal teams. I just kind of want to be able to leverage it as a way to connect people to each other. And so it's not the thing that pays the bills or anything like that. It's really a networking tool for me, and a bit of a branding and marketing tool as well. Specialty, I guess, of my team is oversized heavy haul loads, and so that's kind of, yes, as a broker, I'm specifically an agent under SPI Logistics, and I have been for a little over 2 years now. I've taken that route because it allows me to be a little more streamlined and not have so many people, in my office, in my company, doing all the back office work, right? So that's one thing. What sort of gets me excited is the opportunity to bring more to the table for clients than just the brokerage piece. So all of the networking and the connections that I have in warehousing and in software and in procurement and everything are all things that I can bring to a client in addition to helping with their transportation, right? And so that's kind of what excites me is using any of these sort of levers to just get the conversation started. Sometimes it's offering and inviting someone to come on the podcast, right? So, or finding your meeting owner, inviting them to a Supply Chain Social Club event. So there's so many sort of different hooks that I can use to try to get a conversation started. And at the end of the day, I'm just looking to be a supply chain resource for everyone, for students, for early career people, for business owners, for people that are shippers, for people that are brokers, for everyone. I'm just excited about everything, I guess, in logistics. And so transportation is just one of the tools that you need to operate a supply chain, right? You also need fulfillment. You also need procurement. You also need compliance and trade. So I like all of it, honestly. It's why my name is Supply Chaney, I think, right? But transportation is the important link that connects all the nodes in supply chain. So I just like solving problems at the end of the day. Really what it is a recommendation engine. And I think that is maybe the best way to put it, is that AI, at the end of the day, it needs to be a human that makes the final button and the final decision and uses the expertise and experience and nuance that we understand about the way business works and the world works. But similar to all the AI tools that we're all accustomed to using today, it's there to make recommendations and maybe do the first 80% of the work, right? But that last 20%, I think, is always going to need to be a human there, kind of just making sure that it made the right recommendation and then executing on that. So I think that's kind of where AI will be in supply chain, is chief recommendation officer.